stop to consider. Right now, at this very moment, someone from your past is thinking about you, not in some continuous, obsessive way, but in one of those quiet moments when the mind drifts, when a familiar song plays, when they pass a street corner that reminds them of a time you shared together. Your name surfaces in their consciousness like a stone skipping across water, creating ripples you'll never see. And here's the fascinating part. You have absolutely no idea it's happening. You can't feel it. There's no notification, no signal, no way of knowing. But somewhere in the world, someone you used to know is remembering the version of you that existed in their life. They're recalling your laugh, the way you gestured when you became excited, the specific cadence of your voice saying their name. And the beautiful tragedy of it all is that you'll probably never know. Now, we spend an enormous amount of energy worrying about being forgotten, don't we? There's this pervasive fear that once we're out of sight, we cease to exist in the minds of others. We imagine that the moment we leave a room, a city, a relationship, we simply evaporate from everyone's consciousness. But this isn't how memory works. This isn't how human connection operates at all. You see, we leave traces of ourselves everywhere we go, invisible fingerprints on the consciousness of everyone we encounter. These impressions don't dissolve simply because time passes or distance grows. There's someone from your childhood who still remembers an act of kindness you showed them when others weren't kind. There's someone from an old workplace who recalls how you made difficult days more bearable simply by existing in that space. There's someone you sat beside on a train once whose entire day shifted because of a brief conversation you've completely forgotten. This is one of the great mysteries of existence. We're constantly touching lives in ways we cannot measure. We're being remembered in ways we cannot detect. Think of it like ripples in a pond. You throw a stone, and the ripples move outward, touching shores you'll never visit. Your interactions with others create similar ripples in consciousness, reaching places you'll never see. Consider someone you were close to years ago. Perhaps a friend from school, a former colleague, someone you shared a particular chapter of life with. You were inseparable for a time, and then circumstances changed, different cities, different responsibilities, different paths. You haven't spoken in years. You probably assume they've moved on entirely, that those shared experiences have faded into insignificance. But what if last week something triggered their memory? What if they heard a piece of music you both enjoyed, or encountered someone who moved the way you moved? For a brief moment, they were transported back, feeling that specific warmth that comes from remembering genuine connection. You'll never know about that moment. They won't call you. They won't send a message. They might not even fully acknowledge the feeling to themselves. But it happened. You existed in their awareness again, even if only for seconds. And this is occurring far more frequently than you realize, with far more people than you could possibly imagine. Now, there's a peculiar loneliness in modern life that stems from this disconnect. We've constructed a world where connection must be visible to be considered real. If someone doesn't engage with your social media, they don't care. If someone doesn't reach out regularly, they've forgotten you. If someone doesn't explicitly validate your existence, you cease to exist in their world. But this is fundamentally false. It's a convenient fiction that feeds our insecurities and maintains our isolation. The truth is that people think about each other constantly without saying a word. The human mind is always reaching backward, always touching old connections, always wondering about people who once mattered. We haunt each other in the most beautiful way imaginable, yet we rarely admit it because we've been taught that reaching out after time has passed is awkward, intrusive, or desperate. So we remain silent. We think about people and never tell them. We miss connections and never acknowledge it. We carry memories of relationships that shaped us and never express their impact. and everyone else is doing exactly the same thing. We're all walking around believing we've been forgotten, while simultaneously holding vivid memories of people we never contact. The irony is almost unbearable when you really look at it. This fear of being forgotten comes from a fundamental misunderstanding of what connection actually is. We imagine connection as a continuous exchange, an ongoing performance of caring. But genuine connection transcends time and distance. Real connection is something that occurs in a moment and echoes indefinitely. You don't need to speak with someone every day for them to matter to you. You don't need to maintain regular contact for the memory of them to remain precious. Try this right now. Think of someone from your past, someone you haven't considered in years. Notice how quickly they come to mind. Notice the specificity of the memories, the way they looked, moved, spoke, the way they made you feel. Now understand this. You are that person in someone else's mind. Right now, today, you are the memory someone is holding. You are the ghost from the past that makes someone smile unexpectedly. There's someone who remembers the exact tone your voice took when you became enthusiastic about something. There's someone who still uses a phrase you taught them years ago without even realizing where it came from. There's someone who makes decisions differently because of something you said once in passing. There's someone who thinks of you every time they encounter something you introduced them to. You are woven into the fabric of other people's lives in ways you cannot see. And this weaving doesn't simply unravel because time passes. Let me tell you something interesting about the nature of influence. We tend to think our impact on the world is limited to what we can measure directly. We count our friends, track our achievements, observe who responds to our communications. But the real impact, the deep impact, is entirely invisible. It exists in the private thoughts of people who think about you and never mention it. It lives in the hearts of people who were changed by knowing you, even briefly, even imperfectly. The deepest tragedy isn't that we're forgotten. The deepest tragedy is that we never know how remembered we are. We move through life thinking we're insignificant, thinking our presence didn't matter, thinking we've left no mark, while simultaneously carrying our own memories of others. We understand perfectly well what it means to remember people, to carry them with us, to think of them when we least expect it. But somehow, we cannot extend this understanding to ourselves. We cannot believe that we are being carried in exactly the same way. This is what I mean when I talk about the illusion of separation. We experience ourselves as isolated individuals, disconnected from each other once the immediate interaction ends. But consciousness doesn't operate that way. Memory doesn't function that way. Connection doesn't work that way. Every person who has ever known you still carries a version of you within them. That version might be outdated, incomplete, different from who you've become, but it exists. It lives. It resurfaces without warning. There's someone who was struggling years ago, and your kindness, which you've probably forgotten entirely, gave them hope when they needed it most. There's someone who was uncertain about a major decision, and something you said casually helped them choose their path. There's someone who felt invisible in a crowd, and you saw them, really saw them, even if only for a moment. These moments don't evaporate into nothing. They become part of someone's story. They become part of how someone understands themselves and their place in the world. And here's what makes this even more fascinating. You're thinking of someone right now, too, aren't you? As these words reach you, a face has appeared in your mind. Someone you used to know, someone you lost touch with, someone you wonder about occasionally. This is the human condition in its purest form. We are constantly reaching toward each other across time and distance, but we've somehow convinced ourselves that these invisible threads don't count unless they manifest as visible action. What if you could see it? What if you could witness the map of all the minds you occupy, even briefly, even occasionally? What if you could observe the moments when your name surfaces in someone's thoughts? when your memory brings them comfort, when the ghost of who you were to them provides company in their solitude? Would it change how you see yourself? Would it change how you move through the world? Almost certainly, yes, because most of us are starving for evidence that we matter beyond what we can directly observe. We're desperate to know that our existence has significance we can't measure or control. We want to know that we've left something behind besides our own memories. We want to know that the connections we felt were mutual, even if imperfect. We want to know that we weren't just passing through other people's lives like strangers on a platform. But here's the beautiful paradox. The very fact that you wonder if anyone thinks about you is proof that you think about others. The very fact that you carry memories of people from your past means others carry memories of you. The very fact that you sometimes miss people you no longer speak to means you are also missed by people who no longer speak to you. We are mirrors of each other in this fundamental way. Your inner experience is not unique. Your longing is not unique. Your remembering is universal. Right now, somewhere, someone is looking through old photographs and pausing on one that includes you. Someone is telling a story from their past that features you, even if you're not the central character. Someone is walking past a place you used to go together and feeling that specific ache of nostalgia. Someone is hearing your name mentioned and feeling unexpected warmth. Someone is remembering advice you gave them that changed how they think. Someone is considering reaching out but talking themselves out of it because too much time has passed, because it would be awkward, because surely you've forgotten them entirely. And the cruelest irony is that you're doing precisely the same thing. You're thinking about someone and not reaching out. You're carrying memories and not sharing them. You're wondering about people and not asking. We're all engaged in this silent dance of mutual remembering and mutual silence. We're all holding affection for each other from a distance and assuming it isn't reciprocated. What would happen if we actually broke this pattern? What would happen if we reached out to the people who cross our minds? What would happen if we simply said, "I thought of you today," without needing a reason, without needing the perfect words, without needing an excuse? What would happen if we acknowledged that time and distance don't erase connection? They merely change its form. The resistance comes from fear, of course, fear of rejection, fear of awkwardness, fear of discovering that perhaps they don't think about you the way you think about them, fear of appearing desperate or strange. But underneath all these surface fears is something deeper. The fear that connection is fragile, that it only exists when actively maintained, that once broken it cannot be restored. But let me suggest to you that this fear is based on a misunderstanding of what connection fundamentally is. Connection is not a continuous thread that snaps when communication ceases. Connection is more like a seed that gets planted and continues growing underground, invisible, even when the surface appears barren. Every genuine interaction plants such a seed. Some grow into enormous trees, some remain small but persistent. None of them truly die. You don't need permission to reach out to someone from your past. You don't need a compelling reason. The fact that they crossed your mind is reason enough. The fact that they exist in your memory means they impacted you, and there's a very good chance you impacted them in similar ways. The worst outcome is they don't respond, and you're no worse off than you are now. But the best outcome is you discover that they think about you too, that they've been wanting to reach out but didn't know how, that the connection you imagined was dead was actually just dormant, waiting for someone to be brave enough to acknowledge it. This isn't about collecting people or maintaining relationships out of obligation. This is about recognizing a profound truth. We are not as alone as we believe ourselves to be. Our lives are interwoven with others in ways we cannot fully comprehend. Memory and affection transcend time and space. The people who mattered to us still matter, and we still matter to them, even when years have passed without a single word exchanged. Someone from your past still thinks of you. Perhaps they think of you often. Perhaps they think of you rarely. Perhaps they think of you with joy. Perhaps they think of you with regret. Perhaps they think of you with curiosity, wondering who you've become, what path you've taken. But they think of you, and you think of them. And this mutual haunting, this beautiful haunting, is part of what makes us fundamentally human. We are not meant to move through life collecting moments and then discarding them like used tickets. We are not meant to treat people as temporary fixtures in our personal narrative. Every person we've ever known has become part of us, and we have become part of them. The traces are permanent, even when invisible. The impact is real, even when unmeasured. The affection is present, even when unexpressed. So if there's someone on your mind right now, someone you haven't spoken to in months or years, consider this your permission to reach out. Not because you need something from them, not because something is wrong, but simply because they crossed your mind. And that crossing means something. It means they still live in you, and the chances are very good that you still live in them too. And if you're not ready to reach out, if the fear feels too strong, if the distance seems too vast, then at least know this: you are being thought of too, by someone, somewhere, in ways you'll never know. You are remembered. You are missed. You are carried forward in the memories and hearts of people whose lives you touched, however briefly, however imperfectly. You are not forgotten. You never were. The evidence may be invisible, but the truth remains solid. Someone from your past still thinks of you.